Happy Sunday, everybody, which means it's Soap Opera Sunday here on OCG TV. And I suffered through another week of General Hospital for you all to talk about. I found this past week even harder to get through than the first week of November that I tried to watch. But we'll talk about General Hospital last. I also crack myself up because I'd be doing these videos on deep dives into celebrities and trashing comedians, and they get the channel 100 or a couple hundred more subscribers, but I don't think the people know what they're actually subscribing to, because I like to talk about the very niche things of soap operas and reality shows. But welcome anybody new happening to watch this soap opera video today. I want to start with Days of Our Lives. It was the show's 60th anniversary week, and it gave me all the feels, really, because I would say I haven't smiled that much watching a soap opera since probably the first few weeks of Beyond the Gates, where I was like, wow, there's a new soap opera in America, and I'm enjoying it. It's entertaining. That's how I felt about this past week of Days, but I think it was the nostalgia of all the returning characters for the anniversary month of Days of Our Lives. And 60 years on television is honestly crazy. And so with all these different returning characters, even though a lot of them have returned a lot over the past few years, it still just goes to show the generations of characters this show has, and all the soap operas, and that's what makes them so unique in television, is that so many different generations grew up with so many of these characters and different characters, and to see them all come together was great. First of all, I will always be entertained by any scenes that Sami or Lucas are in. Not even necessarily just together, but they're two of the most entertaining characters in the show's history, to me, quite frankly, when they're really on. And since Ron Carlivati tried to ruin that relationship, and not just relationship, but the character's friendship that goes back decades, it was good to see Sami forgiving Lucas right away to kind of put a rest to that story, which was basically to throw Lucas under the bus to try and prop up Sami and EJ back during a few years ago by Ron. So that was good. I'm glad that happened for the characters. Sami overall is clearly at least tried to grow very much as a person over the years. That character starting off as quite the villain for the show in her youth and even growing up, but she has certainly simmered down, and she's allegedly settling down with someone off screen who happens to be related to the Vitale family. I found it odd that they gave her an engagement to a family that's no longer on campus. I don't know if this is the writers planting a possible future story, maybe. I don't think Alison Sweeney's ever going to have some long-term return. I wish she would, though, especially if that meant we got the Lucas character back. Brian DiTillo should be on the show. You know, the show's trying to build up the Hortons again as one of the nucleus families of the show, since it is the original family. Lucas should be one of the characters that's just on canvas. I know Kate doesn't get a lot of airtime these days either, but they should. I think that was the big takeaway from this week for me, is that if they would just be able to add even a third of these returning characters and take away a third of the current cast they have, the show would instantly be more watchable, because we as viewers, or at least I'm talking for myself mostly, but we as viewers care far more about so many of these characters that return this week than some of these characters that they're struggling to make happen, have been trying to make happen for a few years now, if not longer for some of them. Looking at Rafe. So yeah, who else returned? I enjoyed, well, Jennifer's been around quite a while now. She's probably been the classic character that's had the most screen time. I think that has to do with them building up the Hortons again too. A lot of the fan base has been giving Jennifer hell for giving Chad so much hell, but I still think the show has done a good job of showing us why should Chad have really tried to move on with the woman who was pretending to be his dead wife, and then after learns that she wasn't his dead wife, also falls for her? I thought that was pretty stupid of Chad when it happened. And so I get Jennifer's point of view. And clearly this show has Thomas feeling some kind of way about Chad's relationship with Kat too, even though they don't have a relationship right now. And Chad has tried to end that relationship because of his children. I still think the conflict is good. Jennifer's getting all the hell, but Chad's not completely innocent in this story either. I maybe would feel different if I thought Chad and Kat had this great chemistry as a couple, but they don't. So they had some good scenes this week after Thomas got hit by a car last week. Of course, he's okay, just some scratches and a broken arm or something. But it was good to see Jennifer threaten Chad with a possible custody battle. And I like that they had Lucas be the one to try and talk Jennifer out of it. I thought maybe Jack would feel some kind of way about Jennifer trying to take Chad's kids and move to Boston with her and Jack, but that wasn't the case. But Lucas gave her a good talking to how it might be too messy. He does have that past history of a custody battle between he and Sami over Will, which was a dirty custody battle on the show. And also, Lucas and Jennifer have also had that close relationship over the years. When Lucas was first revealed to be a Horton, Jennifer was the one that tried to be most accepting of him. But it doesn't seem like she listened to him, judging by next week's preview. I also enjoy Lucas and Philip reuniting. Philip having to drown his sorrows because if he doesn't turn Titan around and Titan goes under, then Maggie will lose everything that Victor built in his life over the years. They're putting up Victor's mansion and all of his property to try and keep Titan afloat. And I like that Kate might try and get involved with that, even though they tried to talk her out of it. She doesn't want that to happen. She was married to Victor. She was a big part of Titan at one point. I would love to see Kate more involved in that story. Just Kate being more involved in general is good for TV. Circling back to Sami, it was good to see, well, not necessarily good. I've never liked Sami and EJ. I think they started poorly as a couple. They became very popular though, but they've never been for me. So I didn't like that they still had Sami acting like she was trying to move on to this engagement with this Dante Vitale character to try and make EJ jealous or whatever. But nonetheless, it was still great to see Sami back. It was good to see Sami and Belle have a little confrontation where Belle kind of stumbled in that confrontation with Sami. And they also are building up some story with Marlena maybe having a health issue. I can't tell if it's just her really being still sad about John's death, which is a possibility. But that's something else the show did great this week, was paying tribute to these past characters who where the real life actors have passed away or where the characters have passed away. I like that they used the characters talking about John's death to bring up Isabella, who is a character that died of pancreatic cancer, which is how the actor that played John, Drake Hogestyn, actually died of that in real life. So that was a great way for the show to pay tribute to that at a hospital gala, making awareness for pancreatic cancer. That was great. Great to see Eli and Lani back. Great to see Eric and Will back. Just some of these characters would be great to return more. Even Paul and Andrew, I don't know why they can't be. I really would love Paul and Andrew over Leo and Javi any day. Any day. But that's not what we have, unfortunately. To sum up this week of days, it was great to see all these past characters. They also end the week on a sci-fi note. It's very classic Days of Our Lives, where I don't know who Dr. Rolf is trying to bring back from the dead or has held to be trying to bring back from the dead. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know who is kidnapping the Dimeras. EJ they're making it seem like EJ's involved with that, but we end the week with Kristen basically being kidnapped from prison to be locked up with Tony. And then at that same time, we have a box being delivered to the gala. But then Rolf's also with someone else that he's trying to resurrect or whatever. Interested to see who. I hope it's not like Rolf's trying to bring back Stefano, because obviously Joseph Mascolo's dead, so that's not going to be possible. If it's like Andre, that would be kind of boring. I saw some people online saying Lexi, and that would probably be the most interesting resurrection to me. Though the actress Renee Jones, the reason she left the role is because she retired from acting, so I don't know if that seems likely, but that would be great. There was a lot of mention of Lexi at the gala. We have Theo now working for the Dimeras. That would be by far the most interesting return from a Dimera viewpoint for me personally. But either way, they have at least excited me for these next week of episodes. You know, coming into this week, I was a little disappointed with the build-up to the 60th anniversary. But this week was great, and I'm looking forward to the next week. Probably the soap I'm looking most forward to this next week of episodes. Let's move on to Young and the Restless, though. Once again, the Los Angeles stuff is the only thing somewhat interesting on this show. I still don't know how I feel about Sienna and Noah hooking up or being lovers because of, like I said last week, they played mother and son on Days of Our Lives not that long ago. So I still do find that quite awkward. But I really got to praise Tamera Braun. I think she's doing a great job as Sienna. And I do feel like these characters have certainly infused energy into the show that was probably needed. I still don't love that Roger Howarth is playing a returning character, not a new character. But for now, that is the story that's really driving interest for me. I like that Nick caught Noah and Sienna kissing at the hospital. So the story's also moving kind of quickly. I mean, that probably doesn't bode well for the show overall, because with Josh Griffith's writing, it's it's going to quickly fall apart. He's just not a good writer for these soaps these days. I like that Sharon and Mitch/Matt got into it, and that he's still trying to play up the fact that he's not Matt and that she's crazy, which is what a lot of characters like to do with Sharon. I also found it interesting that the show seems to be trying to build Sharon and Phyllis as friendly. That Sharon called Phyllis to vent of all people is... I don't hate the choice, them being in a triangle for so long with Nick and not liking each other. It's actually an interesting change for the characters. And then, of course, the confrontation between Noah and Matt was a good confrontation, too. I think these new actors in these roles are doing a good job with the LA story. And it's still what's keeping me interested in watching Young and the Restless for now. I thought I would probably be wanting to give up on the show by the end of November sweeps, but I don't feel that way. I think I could at least skip the show till the end of the year. I still think the show needs a new head writer. That would be the best case scenario for the show, because outside of the Los Angeles stuff, we're still dealing with shit like the AI story with Victor and Kane makes no sense. It's so bad. I really think Billy Flynn looks bad for taking this role of Kane, because they're making the character look so stupid. The fact that even Adam called Kane out on not having real protection for his AI creation is true. It's what we've all been saying. So the fact that the writers thought of this in the dialogue, did Josh Griffith actually think about this when he was writing the story? I don't know if that's true. I don't know if he thought of this after the fact. Because if not, if he did think of this when he was writing the story, then Kane looks really stupid in this story. Outside of that, though, I mean, not a whole lot else to say on the rest of the stories. I liked Holden and Audra's scenes at the beginning of the week. I do like the character of Holden a lot. Claire wasn't really on this week that I recall, but she's in the preview with Holden next week, so at least we're getting some Holden and Claire scenes next week. And Holden and Audra have my attention too. They don't have chemistry like Holden and Claire, though, so I'm hoping the show still is smart enough to go in the direction of Holden and Claire, because that's where the chemistry is. Moving on to General Hospital. It's the same issue I had with my first week back after 2 years last week. The show is hard to figure out all of the many different storylines going on. There's just too many damn characters on the show. I was shocked to see that Daniel Cosgrove is a part of the cast. I was shocked to see that Rick Lansing is alive. I mean, I love Rick Hurst as an actor who plays Rick on the show, but it's just so many different characters that why? Like, they don't even have good stories to have all of these characters. And then the characters I do like I said last week, my favorite characters 2 years ago when I was still watching the show, barely get any screen time. Anna was kidnapped last week. Nothing about that this week. Ava was barely on 2 episodes last week and not a lot to do. She was only on 1 episode this week, which is crazy to me. Mara West is like the best actress on the show, and the fact that they don't have any story for her is insanity. It shows that Valentini should no longer have this job, but he will have that job. I've been saying this for years, that he shouldn't have the job, but I've also been saying for years that he will be there till the bitter end. They will hang on to Valentini until General Hospital is finally canceled, which is a shame. My other favorite character, Trina, I went 9 episodes between last week and this week without her being on. She was finally on in Friday's episode, and her story seems pretty dumb. She's a grown woman concerned about her parents getting a divorce when she barely learned that Curtis was her father a couple years back. It's not good writing there, and I did like the confrontation between Trina and Jordan, and Trina blaming Jordan for her parents divorcing, but it's one of those soap opera characters that's like too old to be caring about what's going on with her parents, especially in this case when she barely learned Curtis was her father not that long ago. But I still thought Tabiana was great in the scenes, and I hope she gets hired for another job ASAP so she could finally leave this show that doesn't care about her character, even though she's good in the role and was popular once upon a time. I didn't really get into the kids' stories this past week, breaking into that lab and Rocco kind of taking the fall for it. I guess the setup there was also that Sonny and the DA were kind of interested in each other, but then the DA kind of double-crossed Sonny with that whole Rocco thing. Don't really feel like they're a good couple either. Now, one of the main complaints I've seen about General Hospital is Drew as a villain, and I think that the viewers are maybe sick of him as a villain. With me just coming back to the show, seeing Drew as like this really big villain with nothing redeeming, I don't hate it yet. In fact, I think he's one of the only characters on the show right now that is really making some of the storylines intriguing. Like, these soaps do need villains. They do. And he is driving some story. So I don't hate Drew yet. In fact, I'm enjoying seeing Drew as a villain. Maybe I just like villains in soaps, because I feel like I get a lot of complaints this past week about Leslie on Beyond the Gates. You know, in the past, soap opera villains did so much bad things before paying that I guess I have the patience for some of these villains to take a while before they have a downfall. I will say with General Hospital, though, they do hang on to villains way too long, and they tried to redeem their villains so they could still hang on to the villains. And if you just look at the canvas, you can see how the show is kind of full of those characters between Sonny, Jason, Britt. They now have Sidwell, Ava, Drew now. They have all these characters that are or were villains, and I do think General Hospital does a bad job of keeping them on canvas too long, though. They will write a villain in a corner and either still keep them there and just to drag the stories along, or they will try to redeem them to try and keep them on canvas. It's a very big Valentini problem, but nobody at ABC cares. One thing I do agree with, which I see online about characters these days, is the actor that plays Michael is doing a great job in the role. Rory Gibson, who came over from Young and the Restless, he was Noah Newman before this most recent Noah Newman. He's doing great as Michael. I like whatever dynamic is going on between him and Willow. Willow getting out of prison this week was probably one of the most dramatic parts of the week, seeing Michael on a date with this Jacinda character who was a hooker, I guess. I don't know. I don't like the pairing of Michael and this woman, though, because the actress who plays Jacinda is probably the worst on the show, and he's like doing one of the best jobs on the show right now. So it's an odd combination to put your best actor with an actress that's clearly really green at acting. So that's probably a mistake. But that was one of the more interesting parts of the week, other than Ned's heart attack. The one thing I'll give General Hospital is they will at least give moments that are exciting soap opera. You know, some of these other soaps will just give boring day-to-day episodes. Ned having a heart attack on a Monday and Drew just walking away is a great way to end an episode. And then having him be found the next day was still dramatic as well. That's the positives I will say for General Hospital, is they still give us these soapy dramatic moments that not a lot of these other shows are giving us right now. So kudos to that. And that's about it. I got to see Isaiah for the first time with Portia, who she's carrying on having an affair with. The one thing about the Trina storyline and her blaming Jordan is I do wonder what their reaction will be when she learns that Portia's been carrying on with another man lately behind Curtis's back too. All in all, though, I don't know if it's enough to make me want to stick around GH for long. I'm going to give it the entire month of November. I'm hoping I could find some more things to like about it. They have certain aspects that are good, some certain characters that are good, but with the bloated cast, it's like there's too much going on and most of it's not good, which is a problem. And it's been a Valentini problem for a while. Lastly, like usual on Sundays, I want to read some of your Beyond the Gates comments from the past week. A lot of hoopla about Kat. You know, I always give my shit to the Kat character, the pick me Kat character, and there's a pretty big Kat fandom out there, though. I'll give the character that. So a lot of you had some things to say, which makes me want to troll more, because I'm a troll when it comes to talking shit about people or characters. Some of the comments, though, let's see. Carmen 55422 said, Eva coming into private property. Haven't you noticed everybody walks into everyone's house? It drives me crazy. Don't they lock the doors on this show? I don't know why this show does that with everyone, where people just walking into homes. I guess it's to try and save time so we don't have people knocking on doors, but like they do it too often. It's a trope they need to probably calm down from. Devin shared a story about his youth regarding the Nathan and Samantha storyline. Devin said, in 9th grade, I dated this girl, went to a boys' night at my cousin's and ended up telling one of the boys there I wanted to have sex with my girlfriend. He tells her, and then immediately she calls me and dumps me over the phone. Like I thought the purpose of dating was to eventually have sex. She wanted a connection. Man, I had to learn how to treat women, and quick. Yeah, Devin, that's what lessons we learn in our youth. And this is when I was talking about the Nathan character and how I don't want him to be a caricature if they're going to continue the storyline. At least make him a well-rounded teenager, not just some teenager that wants to add a notch in his belt of people he's sleeping with. He could have just been talking a big game on the phone when he was overheard by Tyrell. So if they are going to continue that Nathan and Samantha storyline, I hope they keep giving both Nathan and Samantha layers. JSM Riches said, it just amazes me how people can just ignore that Eva is an accessory to attempted murder and Kat should act like an entitled princess because she was raised that way and there's nothing wrong with it. There is something wrong with the way Kat acts with her classist comments when it comes to Eva, and she was doing this long before she actually knew Eva was bad with her mother. But do I give Eva maybe too many passes? Maybe. I still see it as Leslie still did all the bad things, and Eva's just trying to protect her mom. And also, when it came to the whole ordeal, I feel like what Cat stands do is ignore the fact that obviously Eva was gaslit her entire life by Leslie when it came to her telling her daughter that Ted didn't care about her. Ted doesn't care that he has another daughter out there. Eva didn't know that Ted didn't know about her. So that is part of the reason why Eva did what she did at the beginning of the show. Then JSM Richards said, Eva does dress trashy and that hair is horrendous. I mean, sure, maybe Eva dresses a little trashy, but so does Kat. Kat's always in those short skirts every time now, for months now. And just because she was a virgin for so long doesn't mean she didn't dress trashy either. So her comment about Eva dressing trashy or slutty was why she is Pick Me Cat from now on. Hemi30 said, it was good that Kat and Ted had a conversation, although I still think he's tripping about wanting Kat and Eva to bond. I remember when my mom was seeing this guy and he had a daughter that was a little older than me. First time meeting her, started talking ish about a mutual acquaintance and tried to get me to think poorly about this person who I had known for years. Then she was going around telling people I was her sister and just being a weirdo. I remember telling my mom that I will never be friends with her because I don't want negative people around me. And my mom was like, okay, I'm grown. It is what it is. I mean, I get that scenario. I can see where Kat's coming from when it comes to not wanting a relationship with Eva. She's just so obsessed with making sure Eva is nowhere near her father, which is unreasonable because Ted is still Eva's father. And I still don't agree with the fact that Kat can forgive Tomas in a day, but then just be so upset with Eva about it. And I know I had a comment at some point this week too about how Kat doesn't care about Tomas, but she clearly does. She's trying to make that relationship work. So the writing for Kat where Tomas is concerned it's a bad look for Kat. Also, I'm an only child, so when it comes to these whole sibling relationships, I don't really know those feelings. So I'm just trying to put myself in the head of some of these characters sometimes, but I don't really know how you all do with siblings or even half siblings, step siblings. It's a lot. Nancy Huffman says, thumbs up to Eva for telling Kat off. Even Tomas told Kat she was wrong. Go Eva. You know, we have an Eva fandom as well. I'm not on board with the Eva fandom like I was at the beginning. I think the writing for Eva has been pretty bad too, but I would like to see it get better, just like I would like to see the writing for Kat get better. Qua Sarah said a lot of good things here. She said, irritated by the Vernon story. It's so forced. Derek works with the beautiful people in the fire station. They are all so charismatic. Then the beautiful girl wants him. He probably feels unworthy, and that is why he turned her down. I was happy to see Danny and Andre trying to do the best thing for the other one, that is love. Andre is right about how the camera loves some people and not others. It may love lifeless Ashley, and that is what he saw in those pictures he took of her. Some people look so much better in pictures than they do live. That's true. Then they went on to say, Eva will probably always try to mother her mother since they are caught in the trauma bonding cycle unless he gets therapy, but she doesn't know she needs it. Agreed with everything you said here. The Vernon story is kind of out of left field and a little forced for me too. Don't think Derek should have turned down the girl after dealing with Ashley for so long, though he probably doesn't even know how to be loved because Ashley never actually was interested in the guy. And Danny and Andre do kind of show some real love for each other, which is why they are working better and better as a couple. Pulse Graves says, oh, Eva, get your own life now. Mama Leslie is her usual mess, and you and us as viewers are exhausted by phony Leslie. Beyond the Gates has got to get beyond this Eva Cat conflict, and instead of recycling the past grievances, I would like to move on from the Cat and Eva stuff. It was definitely my favorite rivalry at the beginning, but I don't think they've wrote it well as of late. And the way they wrote it kind of ruined both characters because of the Tomas situation. Paul's Graves did kind of make a good point about Vernon's story, though, saying it's comedic and Vernon isn't cheating or never would, and he wouldn't be an uptown if he was. Giving some comedic relief is okay with all the gimmicks of the perfume Anita sniffed later. I mean, if they're going for comedic relief, it's fine. Franco said, I'm so glad Derek is getting a new love interest. I've had it with Ashley. Yeah. NY Claw Lady said, Derek is so disrespectful and trash for making out with another woman while it's still in Ashley's apartment. What the hell? Didn't he just start walking 10 seconds ago? I mean, I disagree. I would have loved for Derek and this girl to make out in the chair that Ashley wanted to burn, to make out in Derek's wheelchair in Ashley's apartment. Either way, I would have loved for Derek to make out in Ashley's apartment. Because screw Ashley. Ernie's epilogue says, Ashley and Naomi are some nagging Nancys. They are never, ever happy. It's always something. It's true. They are really bad for each other as friends. They just are miserable together right now. Phoenix Rising says, I screamed when I saw Derek and that female firefighter making out on Ashley's couch. Oh my God, I was so hoping Ashley was going to walk in and catch them. That's the one thing I don't hope happens with this story, though, is that Ashley's going to be jealous of Derek and this woman, and then we have another boring triangle with those two. That would be a nightmare. So I hope they don't go in that direction. Alicia says, should have Googled the birth control issue, but I guess you couldn't be bothered, and I don't blame you. But no, what Haley said was totally untrue and crazy when you think about it. What's more astonishing is you have these well-educated people, and I'm betting lawyer Naomi won't check it out. I wouldn't hire her for a parking ticket. Yeah, them having Bill buy that birth control story that Haley told him is not a good look for any of them. Couple more comments before I gotta wrap this up. Villa's girl was not enjoying the show this past week. She said, Naomi is a horrible person. Jacob and the whispering and the permanently furled eyebrows can kick rocks. Kat is so annoying. She's caused me to not watch the show. No Moss is the worst actor ever. Leslie, Dana, Ashley is Delulu but entertaining. This entire show is giving me grief. Some of the stories can be very grief-fueled lately. I do agree with that, and I do like the name of No Moss for Thomas. Angelica W40 said, Leslie belongs in an orange suit, and for anyone to think that this is enjoyable, entertaining, or in any way acceptable is insane. I can't see it. I can do a villain, but this villain here is on a whole other level. I will stop watching this show if she is not brought to justice. Later in the comments, I talked to Angelica, who said she never watched the soap before, because as I said in the comments, Leslie has done far little compared to a lot of soap villains in the past. I feel like soap opera fans these days are having trouble with the villains being around too long, getting away with too much, but it's part of a soap opera. It's what drives story for months and months and months. And I do think we're hopefully maybe getting close to some kind of blowback onto Leslie. But as I said in the comments, I can't see Leslie going to prison. They like that character too much. They're going to find a way to keep her out of prison when it came to whatever she did to Laura. But with them keeping Laura around, I can see them starting to maybe get close to bringing Leslie down a peg. Maybe. I'm hoping for a lot of the viewers' sake. I don't mind Leslie as much as others. There's far worse characters on the show I'd like to see go away than Leslie. Anyway, that's all my time today. See you for Soap Opera Sunday next week.